Y'all know what time it is. It's a Brothers Got Next. We back. We got a Halloween episode. As you can see, I didn't get the memo to wear a mask, but Darian was on it. Who are you supposed to be?
So I'm Batman, but I'm mixed with, my Black Panther. So I've got DC and Marvel.
Oh, it's like a hybrid fit. That's fire.
I'm a hybrid. Yeah, so, I've always got rep Black Panther, being we the brothers who got next, you know what I'm saying? But,
absolutely.
Shout out, RIP to Chadwick, you know what I mean? Always.
Yeah.
And, you know what I mean? And, I've always been a Batman fan, you know what I mean? So,
now, some people don't consider Batman a superhero because he's like a regular dude that just has money. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree. But, he's dope, though. He's like a playboy, you know what I'm saying? Got the ladies, always got the fly rides, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, but he can fight, though. He has detective-like skills. I think he's a superhero. That's just me.
Yeah, and he got the armor, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, he can fight. Because you can't really, I mean, you could beat him, but you can't, ain't like you could just shoot him or stab him and he's going to die, you know what I mean? Because he got the armor, so,
Exactly. Well, you said, you got it on because it's a Brothers Got Next. We got an honorary brother on the show today. Our boy Aneesh. Aneesh, what's going on, man? Thanks for joining us.
What's up, guys? This is different here being here on camera. This is the first time on camera, so I'm glad you brought me on camera. I know you guys are movie people. You guys talk a lot about movies. You talk a lot about music. I'm a big movie guy, huge movie guy.
Oh, yeah?
No. I'm also a music guy, repping, Taylor Swift over here. Have you guys heard her music before?
I'm not a Swiftie. I do know some of her songs.
I only know Bad Blood, and that's because Kendrick is on the song. I ain't gonna lie to you. Yeah,
I guess we'll educate you over the next 45 minutes.
I mean, I know about the Swifties. Shout out to the Swifties. You know what I'm saying? I know she has she got millions of fans. So you know what I mean.
She's like the biggest star in the world right now.
Yeah, no doubt.
Okay. So my wife's a Swiftie. I've been exposed to quite a bit of Swifties.
Have you been to a show? Have you been to a concert?
Oh yeah, I went to the one in Amsterdam, which was pretty cool.
Ooh, how was that?
I will say there's a lot. I mean, first of all, these things are spectacles, man. They are just absolutely I think in 20, 30, 40 years, you'll look back and hey, do you remember that time of the fact she does 2 years, 3 to 4 times a week for 2, it's insane.
She works.
She works. I will say there's a lot, I think, if you listen to Taylor Swift's early music, it's that hopeless romantic. It's the cheerleader on the side. There's a lot. I think you can, at least for me growing up, I could resonate with her music quite a bit. Her music has turned a little dark. I'm not necessarily a Swiftie where I'm oh my gosh, she released this album. This album was the most amazing thing ever. Honestly, 20 of her songs, they all sounded the same, and I was there's 3 or 4 good songs in here, and.
I feel she always talks about breaking up with a dude. She has a song about John Mayer and about
she's dragging people her exes through the mud.
That's what I feel her music's about. I mean, I know she had the one song. I mean, obviously she never dated Kanye, but when the whole incident with Kanye happened, she had that song about Kanye. But it's always grievances to me. When I'm listening.
Now she has another song dragging Kim K through the mud. Now it's okay. So the thing with Swift, they're Raiders fans. It's why are you are just irrationally loyal.
Wow, it's not just Raider fans though. There's a lot of fans.
Yeah, there's so many fans. So that comes back to sports where you can kind of appreciate it because you're oh, these Swifties, man, you're just diehard, ride or die,
For real. Now, just to give you guys a little background on Aneesh, he used to work at ESPN with us back in the early 2010s. So he's got it, man. That's crazy. It was that long ago. Wow. But yeah, Aneesh has got a deep sports background. He knows his stuff. He's a popular Brothers Got Next guest. So he's gonna have to bring it today though, because we gonna hit some things. He's gonna have to come with it. So let's get started. Obviously, we talk a lot of NFL on this show. We're gonna get right into it, man, because there's a lot of things I want both of your guys' opinions on. But I know some of Darian's opinions. I don't know a lot of Aneesh's. So let's get to it, man. We're going to do a little NFL agree or disagree. It's simple. I'm going to say the statement. You guys tell me if you agree or disagree. Boom. It ain't that crazy. But let's start with one of our favorite topics on this podcast, the Jets and Aaron Rodgers. Agree or disagree? The Jets are the biggest disappointment in the NFL this season. Aneesh, you're our guest. I'll start with you. What do you think?
Agree. What's the next question?
Can you elaborate? Can you elaborate?
I mean, the Jets have Super Bowl expectations, and they are 2-6. They were 2-6 with Zach Wilson last year.
Yeah,
and like I know that you might say, look at their offense; they might look a little better. They can at least score a touchdown, whereas like those Zach Wilson teams would struggle. But the Jets and Aaron Rodgers and all the talk of, oh, Aaron Rodgers got hurt in the first game last year. Oh, don't worry, he's back this year. We're going back to the Super Bowl. The Jets are a debacle. Like it is, and like I don't know who else would it be besides the Jets. So I'm curious. I'm curious if you guys have any other ones, but like the fact you have Super Bowl expectations and you're still 2-6, and you kicked out Zach Wilson, who was also 2-6. It's like none of it makes sense to me.
Now I will say this question is more. I'm not necessarily. I want you to give who you think's the big, because like I don't think you had high expectations with the Jets anyway. Like you weren't really all in on this whole, unless you were. But like from the vibe I got from you before the season was like you weren't really buying the hype. That's why I'm asking, like, personally, are they your biggest disappointment? Because for me, yes, I did pick them to win the East, but the team that I chose, I had Super Bowl aspirations for. I didn't really think the Jets were a Super Bowl team. I thought they were a playoff team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I had the Jets under. I have the Jets missing the playoffs. So like for me, I'm not. There's too much. When you have drama, especially at the quarterback position, it usually doesn't turn out very well.
No.
Especially when your quarterback is 40 and past his prime, like that doesn't usually work out very well. For me, I'll give you a surprise answer that I think a couple years ago they were really good. They had a young quarterback that was ascending. They started off last year really good and have fallen off a cliff. And I was like, you know what? I think they can get back to who they were 2 or 3 years ago, and I think they could ascend again. That they're just horrible and they've fallen off a cliff is the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah. Darian, you were big on the Jags, especially after they hired Peterson.
I was. I mean, I'm in a way, I'm kind of in agreement with Aneesh because the Jets, like I'm with, we're kind of the same. We thought they were a playoff team. We never said Super Bowl. I thought they could win the East, but the Jags, I mean, you have Doug Peterson as a coach who's a Super Bowl winning coach. Trevor Lawrence is supposed to be, one of those generational, once in a lifetime.
Supposed to be, yeah.
Right, supposed to be. And I don't really know what's going on or what happened. I mean, Trevor Lawrence doesn't look like a once in a generational quarterback. He actually looks like a below average quarterback now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what Doug Peterson is doing. I don't know if it's his staff or the play calling, or he's kind of, I don't know if the NFL or teams have kind of figured him out now. And it's like, okay, you're not going to do to us what you did with the Eagles, right? I don't know. And I'm going to be honest. I mean, the Jags are not a great organization.
No.
They've never been known to be a great organization. So I think, once again, it starts at the top. And that's why you see a lot of these organizations are bad for so long, or they may have years where they're good 1 year, 2 years, like every 5 years. But for the most part, they're bad because it starts at the top. It starts at the owner to the GM to player personnel. I mean, that's how it always works. So, yeah, I kind of agree with Aneesh. I mean, I didn't think the Jags were a Super Bowl team. I thought they'd at least make the playoffs. They can, get into the playoffs. But, I mean, they look like one of the worst teams in the league. I mean, I seriously thought they'd be right there with the Texans in that division. But they look horrible, bro. I mean, they're right there with the Tennessee Titans, who are awful.
20 months ago, Darian, sorry. 20 months ago, January, they were in Kansas City and had giving Kansas City a game.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
20 months ago. That's a
year
year
so long ago, though. Yeah.
Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, you don't... And they kind of have that perfect combo in some ways, right? They've got an offensive-minded head coach with a quarterback that was number one, who you would say is like once in a generation type.
Right. At least we thought so.
And we thought so.
Right.
And when you see, okay, like you look at Caleb Williams now and you're like, oh, Caleb Williams, like he's kind of hit or miss. He's getting a little bit better, but he's got a defensive head coach like Matt Eberflus. And you're like, okay, when you have a defensive head coach and a really good quarterback, you can kind of see, but then you try to get the offensive head coach with a really good guy. You look at like Cincinnati, Zach Taylor and Joe Burrow. Things are kind of generally working well for them based on where they were previously.
Mm-hmm.
What is going on? Like, they look horrible. Like, Trevor Lawrence could be a backup in a year. Like 20 months
my new deal.
Yeah. What happened? Like, it doesn't. None of this makes sense.
And they're not in a, like you guys said, they're not in. It's not like they're in a great division. They have one other team to compete with. So because the Titans aren't relevant, and the Colts are just okay.
They're okay. They're up and down. They're a 500 ball club.
They're a 500 team, and we'll talk about their quarterback situation.
But before you get to your point, Robin, because Aneesh brought this up, the only other thing I can think of is most disappointing, and this is not. I mean, I didn't really have them in the playoffs, but kind of like I don't really know what the hell happened. Is what's going on in Cleveland, because like Aneesh said, you have an offensive coach, and Deshaun Watson. I don't know what the hell happened. I don't know if it's because of what transpired as far as, off the field. It was all that, all the, allegations and all the stuff he was going, with that. I've never seen a player in NFL history, at least since I've been watching football, that has dropped as much as I've never seen this. I really can't understand. Because normally, okay, the injury thing, yes, we've seen people with major injuries, but they don't fall off that bad. It's like, yeah, they may not be that same, the primetime player we saw, but they were still good. It was like, oh, yeah, they're still good. It just, obviously the injury is kind of, lessened them a little bit. But this is like falling off a cliff. That's the only other team or other situation I really don't get. And then what makes matters worse is that when you plug in like a Flacco or Jameis Winston into the offense, they're balling out. They're playing well. It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make sense.
It really doesn't.
Well, I think it goes to show that like what you go through off the field can really affect you on the field. I think that's a classic example. I mean, we knew. Look, how good was Deshaun before he got to the Browns? Like maybe we overrated him a bit, but I mean, based off what we saw on the field, he was a really good, productive quarterback. He was a top 10 draft pick, so he had a lot of promise even coming out. So. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. I think for me, it's in that same division. The Jets, while they are disappointing, they're still the Jets. Like that's a dysfunctional organization. So like maybe my expectations just were a little too high. And Rodgers has passed his prime. I shouldn't have expected him to come in there and just change it around. He's gotten everything he's wanted. He had his coordinator. Now he got Lazard. He got Devontae Adams, and they've been awful. So to me, it's Cincinnati. Cincinnati to me had Super Bowl. Like if I would have told you before the season, which I predicted them to go to the Super Bowl, that they're going to be in the Super Bowl, you guys would have been like, "Oh, that's crazy." You'd be like, "Oh yeah, that could probably happen," because they've proven they can beat Mahomes in Kansas City. But like, I don't know what's going on in the defense. Defensive coordinator Lou Anarumo, I don't know. He was one of the hottest coordinators in the league just a year or two ago. Now they're just a disaster. So.
But Bob, I think it goes back to what you said in previous pods that we've had, that with the Bengals. You said one of these years is going to catch up to them having that slow start.
That slow start.
You can't keep doing that. You can't keep doing that every year. 0-2, 0-3. Okay, now we're going to turn it on. The NFL is the players get. First of all, the teams get better every year and they improve. So you can't keep doing that every year, saying, "Well, we'll just turn on a switch and turn it on." These players are too good, and these teams get better.
Yeah,
like it doesn't work that way.
Eventually, it catches up to you.
Exactly. I think there's two important things with both of the teams you guys mentioned. One with the Bengals. When you start paying a quarterback, life hits you fast, right? You lose defensive players, you lose weapons.
Right. Running back.
They had to get rid of Joe Mixon. How good does Joe Mixon look in Houston right now? Houston can pay Joe Mixon because they've got a quarterback on a rookie contract. So that stuff hits you quick. The thing with Deshaun Watson is really interesting, and I think what we've seen quite a bit is like situations matter a lot. And what happens in one city and one franchise in one situation in 1 year may not translate to a different city, a different organization, a different year. And when you look at Deshaun Watson, it's like clearly there was something in Houston, whether it was coaching, city, surroundings, DeAndre Hopkins in his prime, that like really mattered. Where like, how many quarterbacks, like think about Baker Mayfield in Cleveland. He struggled too. Now he's in Tampa Bay and he's got like talent and support and he's happy and things are good. He's older and he's like thriving in Tampa Bay. But like what happened in Cleveland? So like when people move, like they don't hit that same, they may not hit that same level of what we expected them. To your point, Darian, but the Deshaun Watson's thing, like he's not even serviceable though.
No, he's not even a backup.
Right, he's not a backup. I was going to say that he's not even a backup.
Have we seen him throw his last NFL pass? Like
go to the XFL. Like he should go to the XFL. Like it'd be great for the XFL.
Do you actually think are we going to see him again? Real question. I mean, is an organization going to bring him in? Because he's not going to be in Cleveland. I don't see that. Is an organization going to bring him in and actually give him a chance as a starter? I don't see that.
So Kwab, now, because I remember you said you didn't think they would take the hit. They would just keep him on just to not take the hit. But I think now you're kind of saying they have to.
Wrong on that.
They may have no choice here.
Especially coming off of a significant injury too. Like an Achilles injury, it wasn't his Achilles, I believe, but that takes a while. That takes a while, so I think that could be their out. And of course, they're still going to be obligated to him contractually, so it's not going to matter too much. But I just think they're going to just take the hit and move on. They're seeing how a team like Denver's thriving after they moved on from Russell Wilson. Bo Nix is getting better each week, so they're saying like, look, they didn't take a big a hit as we're going to take, but screw it, let's just do it, try to move on. Now they're still going to have to figure out the quarterback situation because as good as Jameis looked, I think we can all say he's not the answer. He's probably a good bridge quarterback, but he ain't the long-term answer.
But I will say to the Denver situation and now Russ being in Pittsburgh, I think it worked out for both parties. We can kind of say that, right? Like Russ in Pittsburgh with a good defense, he can throw down the field. He can thrive there. Like, it's kind of worked out for both. Whereas in Cleveland, like, I don't know. It's like to Aneesh's point. It doesn't matter who they get. It's the environment. It's the organization. They're just a loser franchise. And you kind of said this for years, Kwab, like with Cleveland. It doesn't really matter what talent they get. They always end up being the Cleveland Browns, who they are. Because it starts at the top.
It's like the Jets.
Exactly. It doesn't matter what talent they get, who they get. It always ends bad. You know what I mean? That never ends well. So unlike the Denver and Russ situation where it kind of worked out for both parties, because let's be real, Russ is now doing his thing in Pittsburgh. Right, they got Bo Nix. Peyton actually has his quarterback. Looks like he has his dude there. So it kind of worked out for both parties where Cleveland's not going to end well. No matter how you slice it, whether they release him, whether they keep him, it's just not going to be a good situation.
Yeah, man, we'll see. But let's move on to the next topic. We're gonna, Aneesh, I love the fact that you brought up quarterbacks getting a lot of money and how it kind of affects the rest of the teams. Let's talk about the Cowboys a little bit. So obviously Dak got paid this offseason. You like how I did that? So Dak got paid this offseason. I'm not gonna say he shouldn't have got paid. Now the amount he got paid, that's a different story. But Aneesh, I'll start with you on this one. Can true or false? The Cowboys can still turn things around and make the playoffs. Let's not forget this team. Before this season, the only team that had more regular season wins than them was the Chiefs over the last 3 years. So we've seen them do it before. Now, this isn't the same team necessarily, but true or false on that one?
I'm going to say, I think if I understand, I'm going to go false.
True or false, the Cowboys can still turn things around and make the playoffs.
False. I think what I've learned about Dak Prescott over the years is it either goes one way or the other, and you know early on which way it's going.
Darian says that a lot. Yep, you already know. First quarter, you know.
Yeah, like this is the season, right? Last year you could kind of feel it, like came in a little low expectations, a little bit flying under the radar. The Eagles had just won the division, gone to the Super Bowl, like kind of came in, got the momentum, and you're like, okay, Dak's caught fire. Right now, everything just feels hard, like the whole CD thing. Don't really have a running game to support him. They've lost, Tyron Smith on the offensive line, even though he barely played a little bit here and there. But like, you don't feel it. You don't see it with the Cowboys. And I think the Cowboys are you can kind of see it pretty early type of thing. And I don't think they can turn it around because you just see it. And I think they look uncomfortable.
They do. They do.
They look uncomfortable and out of sync. And I just haven't seen Dak historically just be like, oh, okay, they flipped the switch and turned it around. Right. It's just not who I think Dak and the Cowboys are.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not disagreeing with Aneesh. It's false, obviously. I mean, we can point to a number of things. I mean, Aneesh hit on a number of things, but we can even go to more, right? Let's just talk about a lame duck head coach, right? They're going to get a new head coach next year, right? Obviously, Aneesh brought up the quarterback situation, right? They had to pay Dak. They had to pay CD. So, obviously, you can't get talent in there like you would want, right? They have no running back. They couldn't get anytime big-time free agents to come on the defensive side. And then you have Dan Quinn leave, right? you plug in Mike Zimmer. So now you have to learn a whole new defensive scheme with a head coach who's not going to be there the following year. We already know this. We know because Jerry Jones kind of said in the offseason, if he doesn't at least get to the NFC Championship game, which forget that, and he might not even make the playoffs, he pretty much is gone. So we kind of knew the writing was on the wall in the offseason. Plus, Jerry Jones is the owner. Like, I'm sorry. I don't care what people think. Oh, no, he's not a good owner. The owner should not be the GM. I've been saying this for like 10 years.
Hold up. Not to cut you off. I don't think I think he's a good owner. I think he's a bad GM. I think there's a difference between the two. Dude,
Bob, that is part of being a bad owner. Why are you making yourself the GM? You're making that decision. So you can't be a good owner and say, well, I'm a bad GM. No, it goes hand in hand. Why are you the GM? That's a bad decision.
He would be good just as an owner.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying.
I agree. That's what I'm saying. If he was just the owner, I would have no issue. Even how he acts and everything, how he talks all the time. Fine, just be the owner, but do not be the GM. That's what's wrong. And again, we want to always talk about organizations. It starts at the top. That's why the Cowboys have been the same every single year. They may have really good regular season. They fold in the playoffs because it starts at the top. And then you don't have the right head coach. You have a yes man, and just Jerry Jones, because Jerry Jones, he's not going to give any control to anybody. That's why Gruden didn't go there, Cowher didn't go there. Any of those coaches that were always rumored to go, they're not going to go there because he's not going to give any power to them. That's why this whole Belichick thing, stop it. Belichick's not going there.
No.
Belichick wants power. Jerry Jones and Belichick, that's a recipe for disaster. They're going to butt heads off the break. It's not happening. He's going to get another yes man coach in there that will do what he wants. And I'm sorry to say this, and I know people say, "Oh, you shouldn't say that." Nothing's going to change until this man passes away. Until he dies, nothing's going to change. And I'm going to be honest with you, it may not even change with his son, because if his son is anything like Jerry, good luck to Cowboy fans around here, around the world, because it may stay the same forever. Because he's in his 50s, 60s, so he ain't going nowhere. So you better just hope and pray when Jerry passes that he's different and he's like, you know what, I'll actually go get a GM. I'm not doing what my father did. So, again, like I said, everything Aneesh said I agree with, but it's much more layers to why the Cowboys are where they are now.
One thing with the Cowboys, I cannot disassociate myself with Derrick Henry. Derrick Henry was sitting out there in the offseason. And you look at their running backs, and it's in the NFL, it's hard because you're like, oh yeah, does one person actually change something?
Right.
But like, man, if you put Derrick Henry on this Cowboys offense,
man.
What?
And he wanted to go there.
The season
wanted to go there. Yeah.
But that's the thing, Aneesh. They have a history of doing that. I can go back when Earl Thomas went to go there, when Earl Thomas was still good in his prime. They didn't go get him. It's always these rumored players that want to go there. They've publicly said it, and Jerry never goes and gets them. He's like, well, no, we're good. We're going to stay with the talent we drafted, guys that are not even at the caliber of those players are, and this is the results you get. That's why I keep saying he should not be a GM. And as the owner, you cannot make that decision to yourself to say, I'm going to be the GM and make these kind of decisions. That's why you're getting killed in the media when, you try to justify, well, he doesn't fit in our offense. What are you talking about, dude?
I think doesn't fit. Well, here's one thing, though, and Aneesh, I'll ask you this because obviously Darian's a Cowboy fan, so he may not look at this the same, but when I think of Jerry Jones as a GM, obviously he's very flawed, but I sometimes don't think he gets enough credit for some of the rosters he has put together. And like, when do we put the blame on the players and not him? For example, if you look at the last couple of years, they've had a lot of Pro Bowl level guys. They've had all pro guys on that O-line. Dak is one of the better quarterbacks in the league. Drafting Micah Parsons, drafting Deron Bland, drafting Trayvon Diggs. Like they've hit on a lot of draft picks. And I think sometimes we want to, they lose a playoff game because the bad clock management or whatever. And we all, oh, damn, Jerry Jones, man. But like, hold up. Like, there needs to be some accountability on the guys on the field too. It shouldn't just be on Jerry. I'm not saying that Jerry shouldn't get some of the blame, but like Dak should get some of the blame too, because like, bro, you got to stop throwing these red zone interceptions. You have to stop doing that. Like, you're a veteran quarterback at this point. Like, you got to stop doing that.
The one thing that comes to mind with the Cowboys, it's a family business, and they've done a good job of drafting people and getting people like CeeDee Lamb, Dak. They hit on late in the, but the problem becomes, and yes, you're right. It's the people on the field, but they also run it like a family business. Kellen Moore, Mike McCarthy keeping him around, Jason Garrett for all those times. Right. Now what they're doing with Dak, like Dak has been who he has been for like 4 or 5 years, and they could have aggressively moved off of him. That I think in younger Jerry years, in the 90s Cowboys, they were very aggressive at like getting free agents. They were very aggressive at like it. Now it just feels like a family business. And they hang on and people stick around. Jason Garrett sticks around and Dak is lingering. And this is the Cowboys. It is what it is. And in order for Jerry to really change things up, yeah, we can sit here and blame Dak, but is this just Dak? Dak is who he is. So what, Dak's not doing anything wrong.
Running things like a family business isn't always a bad thing. Like it depends. I was just going to use that as an example. But the difference with the Steelers and the Cowboys is the owner has a GM. And the only time the owner comes out is when it's something big. What's going on with Roethlisberger? Why is
the Chiefs are a family business? Look at them. Like I said, family business.
Beach is one of the best. It can work. It can work. Like, for example, and we'll get to this in a little bit, but the decision with Russell Wilson starting was all Tomlin. Owner's like, that's on you. GM is like, that's on you. That's not happening in Dallas. Everything that happens in Dallas, Jerry has to approve on. Oh, no. Like if hypothetically, if the head coach was like, look, if Mike McCarthy's like, I'm going to bench Dak, he's been playing bad. Jerry Jones is like, you're out of your mind. There's no shot. There's other coaches. Andy Reid can do whatever he wants. I honestly believe that. They trust him enough. He has the resume. Now, McCarthy kind of has the resume. Like, he's won a Super Bowl before, but he doesn't really get treated as he's not respected like some of his peers are. And it's kind of sad. Like, McCarthy's kind of looked at as a joke sometimes, and it's just like, damn, like, he has a similar win percentage to Mike Tomlin. He has one Super Bowl win just like Mike Tomlin does. But if you ask people who the better coach is, it's not even going to be close. It's going to be a landslide.
That's back to my point, Kwab. That's what I'm saying to you. That's why they'll never get a coach that wants control, because Bill Belichick's not giving that up to Jerry. You think Jerry's going to go tell that to Bill Belichick and he's going to be like, okay, no, it's not going to work, because Bill Belichick's going to be like, no, hell no, get your ass back up as an owner, stop being a GM and let me run my team.
Well, that's why
he's never going to get a coach like a Belichick or somebody like a Gruden or Cowboys. You know, I know they're kind of done coaching, but
like big name guys,
right? Big name guys that kind of want control of personnel. He's never going to relinquish that. You know what I mean? That's never going to happen. That's why I'm like this whole Belichick going there. It's not going to happen because
Belichick, don't let him be GM. We know that. Don't let Belichick be GM.
Well, yeah.
Well, really quick on your family businesses. I think the family businesses in the NFL are Dallas, Pittsburgh, Green Bay. I don't know how well they're doing. Like, fine, they're always winning, but how many Super Bowls are being represented from Dallas? Super Bowl appearances.
Oh, they definitely had their flaws too. I think the Steelers are too loyal to a fault. You know, they held on to.
But what about KC? KC's a family, but the Hunts have been running it for years.
Mm-hmm. I mean, yeah, in terms of like, yes, there's a family that's been running it for years, but we're talking about like when you look at their personnel moves year over year, you're like, dang, they're really loyal, or like they're
okay.
I see what you're saying. Green Bay is very draft and develop, which is like a family, right? We're going to bring in certain people. We're going to develop them. We're going to hold on to them. And they do a really great job.
You're right, because KC does move off people. You know, they move off people.
Yeah, they're moving off of people. They let Ward go. Like, they're a business. And there's a difference between a business and a family business. In the family business, it's like, well, we love you. It doesn't matter if you're performing or not performing. We're very loyal to you. So thank you for your service. Here's another $45 million. And they're like, wait.
Right.
Are we sure that's right for the business at the moment?
Right.
And so I think that's a difference.
I'll give Green Bay a little credit, though. They did a good job of knowing when to move off of quarterbacks. Like they knew when to draft one when Favre was kind of going they saw him going a certain direction. And Favre wasn't done yet when they drafted Rodgers. Like they kind of saw it coming. Same with Jordan Love. They got a lot of criticism for drafting Jordan Love when Rodgers was still playing kind of at an MVP level. They decided, hey, we're going to move off of him. They could have done it probably a year before they did, but I give Green Bay some props on that.
How much criticism did those Packers organization get for not supporting Aaron Rodgers? Go get these free agents and this receiver. Rodgers needs help. Like, and they would just draft guys in the second, third, fourth round and try to develop them and like invest in his offensive line and like more. But those Packers teams got a lot of. It wasn't Rodgers' fault. It was all go pay this receiver, go pay that receiver, bring them in, and they just never would.
Right.
It's just not their MO, and because it's like they're not a part of the family. Like I don't know. It's
yeah. Good stuff, fellas. True or false? Russell Wilson's back, baby. Yeah, you guys know I'm gonna go with this, but I'm actually curious.
What's your answer, Kwab?
He never left. No, honestly, real topic. But Aneesh, I've been saying it for years. I think there needs to be. I think there's a difference between being past your prime and being cooked. And I think Russ was always looked at, oh, he's done. I'm like, I don't think he's done. Now, numbers don't tell a story because he wasn't great in Denver. I don't care what his touchdown to interception ratio was. If you watched him on the field, he took a lot of sacks. He missed a lot of throws. He barely threw for over 3,000 yards. I understand he didn't play towards the end of the season, but he definitely looked like a shell of himself. And he's definitely past his prime. He's not as mobile anymore. He takes a little while in the pocket before he makes a decision, especially when he's under pressure at times. But I've been saying it for a while. I still think he does a lot of things well. His deep ball, while it's not the same as it was, 7-8 years ago in Seattle, he's not hesitant to do it. And I think that's been the problem since Roethlisberger, 5-6 years ago when they would just sling it downfield. But I like that Russ does it with precision. It's not just, well, let me just chuck it up there. Like he makes it when you need to make it. It's not into triple coverage or anything like that. So, all jokes aside, I think he is not the same level quarterback, but I still think he's the best option. And I was always saying when me and Darian went to that game in Pittsburgh, I still want to see Russ. I think the offense is still leaving a lot to be desired. We know that Justin Fields is still not a great passer. I don't know if he ever will be. I mean, this is year 4 at this point, and he's still just okay. I think, is he back? I don't know what I really meant by back. Is he not washed? No, he's not washed.
He's not Aaron Rodgers. No, Aaron Rodgers is washed.
Yeah, I think Rodgers is past his prime. I don't think Rodgers is washed.
Peyton
Manning was washed. Yeah. Peyton Manning his last season, that's what washed is. Cam Newton's last season with the Patriots or when he went back to the Panthers, that's washed to me.
Well, and if Aaron Rodgers is washed, what is Deshaun Watson? Like,
that's my thing. That's washed.
Deshaun Watson's like not even playable. Like it's like he shouldn't even be in the league. Like you said it earlier, Aneesh. You said he's not even. He's barely like you said. You just suggested the man go to the XFL.
Dude, if the XFL wants him, he might go to the CFL.
Dude, he's trying to send everybody to the XFL.
Yeah, XFL, CFL. That's bad. If you're saying a place should go to the XFL, CFL,
that's not good.
That's not good.
They brought that back.
But Aneesh, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, where'd he go? Like, things look good right now in Pittsburgh, don't they? Like,
yeah, they do.
I think the commonalities between Russ in you had to look at situations, and I think you had to look at like what was there in Seattle, what wasn't there in Denver, and what is there in Pittsburgh. And if you looked in Seattle was for a long time based on run game, play action fakes, deep balls. That wasn't really. That's like not saying that's not Sean Payton, but like we saw Drew Brees for a lot of years in Sean Payton. It's about timing. It's about like West Coast a little bit. It's about getting the ball out to the right spot.
Quick release.
That is not Russell.
That's not Russ. Mm-mm.
It is what we're seeing in Pittsburgh, which is run game first, run, pound it, play action, take deep shots.
Right.
And that isn't an environment that Russell Wilson has.
And good defense. Remember, he also had a great defense in Seattle.
He had a great defense in Seattle, but I think in terms of like offensive structure, it is run game, play action, everything off of that, and take your shots.
Right.
And he is a deep ball thrower, like that ball that Calvin Austin. George Pickens specializes in making contested catches in the air, and they are kind of built with George Pickens and that run game to give Russell Wilson an environment to thrive in. So yeah, in this situation, he's back. Like. And I think things today in Pittsburgh at 6-2, if they were 6-2 with Justin Fields, I think everyone would be like, not really a Super Bowl contender, but like with that defense and the way Russ kind of looked, like why can't they?
AFC is kind of open. I mean, KC is still going to be KC. This isn't prolific offense, KC. Not saying that they're not still as difficult to beat, but after KC, we know the Steelers can compete with the Ravens. We know that. But the Bills.
What's your definition of open, Kwab?
Well, I think when I look at the NFC, for example, I can't give you a clear cut like
that's open. That's like
right. What I'm going to say is.
I don't know. Them Lions look good though. Them Lions look. That offense looks like. I mean, it's an oil machine. Of what's going on in Detroit. I don't see a lot of defense. I don't care what defense you have. That Lions offense. I mean, it's like pick your poison because they can hit you on the ground and they can hit you in the air. Jared Goff looks like. Well, I called it, Kwab, when we made our predictions. I said Jared Goff's going to be the MVP. So you're seeing it live and in living color right now. You know what I mean? So that Detroit offense, I don't see a lot of teams stopping that, even when playoff time comes. If they're doing
probably old school. If you were like, oh, yeah, Lions Super Bowl lock, that's not something that ever be like, yeah, I'm
right. Right.
Yeah,
but
I think, sorry, what I meant to say, Aneesh, was like, I feel like usually there's a few teams in the mix. Like, for example, there's been Cincinnati, there's been Buffalo, there's been Baltimore, but those three teams I just named are kind of flawed. Like, Buffalo can look amazing one week, and then look what happened when they played the Ravens of the 3-4 weeks. They got destroyed. The Ravens have lost to the Browns. They've lost to the Raiders. Like, I just feel like this is the year where it's kind of one team, and then like who's that other team that's going to sneak? Now, meaning I think I don't know who the Chiefs are going to play in the title game. That's what I mean by it's kind of open. Like. I don't think you guys would be surprised if it's Chiefs versus maybe four other teams. I think Houston's kind of fell out of the mix. I think their receiver position is a little banged up right now.
But they're going to get Nico Collins back. They still got Tank Dell. They're going to get Nico Collins back. You know what I mean?
You mentioned the Ravens and associated with the Steelers. You know who this year's Ravens, or the Ravens the last few years remind me of? They remind me of those Steelers, those really good Steelers teams with Ben and Antonio. You can get into some weeks with them, man, and you will be
electric.
Electric, run off the field, like doesn't matter who, just don't even show up. And then some weeks you're like, what in the world?
Yeah, they'll lose to the 1-8 Jets the next week. Yeah, that's actually a great point. But I still think Pittsburgh is pretty flawed. Like, yes, Russell looks good right now, but I think the more they start to see what they like to do with him, defenses are going to pick up on that. Like, the NFL is very smart, man. These teams are sharp. We'll see how they look. They got a brutal schedule coming up. And just one quick point I want to make before I throw it over to Darian. I think Arthur Smith needs to get a lot of props. Remember, he kind of rejuvenated Ryan Tannehill, too. We've seen this before. Remember that year Tannehill had like 35 touchdowns? That was Arthur Smith.
Tanner Thrill?
Tanner Thrill, exactly.
How do you guys hold on to Matt Canada?
Oh, my God. Worst OC of all time.
Where is he now?
Probably, I think he's coaching he's like an O coordinator in high school. A coordinator in high school? He couldn't even get a coach.
Serious?
I don't know. I think I heard something.
Yeah, I will say this, though, Kwab. I mean, look, I'm not really surprised in the whole I'm back thing. I mean, look, I've been saying all season, get Russ in there. You'll see the difference between him and Justin Fields. And I told you this in the beginning of the season, that once he got in, you had a good defense. Russell was still serviceable. I know you brought up in the beginning that he didn't look great in Denver despite the numbers. You know, I always kind of still brought up the numbers because I still think they mattered, the 26 and 8. Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah, I know he didn't throw for over 3,000 yards, but you still saw glimpses of what Russ can still do. Like, oh, yeah, like put him in the right situation. Like Aneesh said, this is probably like the perfect situation for him, and you can see what he does now. So I agree with you. I think, you know, after KC, yeah, would we be shocked if Pitt was to play them in a title game? No, because you arguably have a top. I mean, let's not even argue. You have a top 5 defense. Russ still can play. You have the running game, like Aneesh said, pound, play action. You have the receivers. You really have everything at your disposal that you need to at least contend to go to the Super Bowl. I'm not saying you're going to beat KC, but you have all the pieces there. So no, I don't think it's not surprising, and it's not he's a bad thing. I've been saying this all year that once you put him in there instead of Fields, this is the result. This is what's going to happen. So It's not really shocking to me.
And I think Denver brought him in to kind of be like a savior. Like they expected that old Russ.
Right.
Yeah, they expected the old Russ from 3-4 years ago that had like 40 touchdown passes.
And that's the problem. They had too many. The wrong expectations were was the wrong expectations.
Yeah, the Steelers have lowered those expectations. Like, all right, well, we just need him to be like solid. Just be solid, and the defense is going to carry this team. So,
right.
Let's hit one more topic, fellas, before we move on. The 49ers, I believe they're on a bye week coming up. They've had kind of a weird year, though. Like they can look good one week, and then they don't look good the next week. Then they look okay, then they look awful. Like they've been everything. Like, yo, you look good, bad, terrible, but obviously McCaffrey is coming back soon. Although the running game hasn't really been a huge issue, but obviously with McCaffrey, you're going to have to game plan differently for him. Obviously, he's a threat at the receiver position. True or false, when the Niners are healthy, now as healthy as they can get, obviously Ayuk is out. When the Niners are healthy, true or false that they're still the team to beat in the NFC? Darian, I'll start with you.
This is a tough one for me. It's funny because I actually want to ask Aneesh a question because obviously this is his team. Mm-hmm. Aneesh, before I get into what I'm going to say, what are your really true thoughts about, just being unbiased? I know you're a fan. What are your true thoughts on Purdy? Because here's my thing. When I watch Purdy sometimes, I'm like, okay, when he has all the weapons, he's great. He's awesome. He looks the best quarterback in the league. You take those things away, it's like, it's like you're seeing a different quarterback. You take, especially when you take Debo and McCaffrey out of the mix. Kittle's is normally pretty much healthy, so he's always there. But you take Debo and McCaffrey, they're like a different team. Like Purdy doesn't look the same. So I'm just curious your thoughts of like, is Purdy the long-term answer? And you can be honest, or do you see more of like, okay, he kind of needs everything there to be successful?
I think we're still. I think the world is still waiting for the shoe to drop on Brock Purdy, and so I think they always take that like, oh, he's a 7th round pick, he's not that good, like type of lens at it. If Brock Purdy was like the number 1 pick and doing what he was doing, like I think we would take a very different lens at him.
I agree with that.
Yeah, I agree with you. That's true. Yeah, I agree.
So I think we're just waiting for the shoe to drop, and we're looking for everything for the shoe to drop. I mean, he played like Debo at half pneumonia the other day.
Right.
Ayuk being out, no CMC. He looked pretty good against Dallas. I think he just has a little bit of like Brett Favre in him, where I think sometimes you're like, dang, like that was a throw. Like you just made a 25-yard throw on an out pattern. Like, whoa. And then you'll see some throws you're like, oh my gosh, you could throw like 6 picks a game. Like, what are you doing? It's a little bit of that, like, just like high risk, high reward type of gunslinger in him. But I think sometimes you look at him and you're like, oh shoot, like that throw, you made that throw's awesome. Yeah. I also think he's underrated athletically. How many times is this guy, especially the other night, you're like, how are you outrunning like NFL defensive like linemen and like rushing for like 40 or 50? And he seems to make the right play. I'm sold on Brock Purdy personally, and I think especially as long as Kyle Shanahan is there, because I think Kyle Shanahan, like that guy is just like an offensive machine. And so I think the key to Brock Purdy is really Kyle Shanahan. I think if you move him somewhere else where he doesn't have Kyle Shanahan, you give him Matt Eberflus. Probably not. But like I think in the situation and environment he's in, like they drafted Pearsall, he looks pretty good. They've got Debo for a little bit. They got Kittle for a little bit. The Cowing guy looks pretty good. They got Shanahan. Like, I think he'll be fine with Purdy as long as he's in San Fran.
I actually thought Darian was going to ask about Shanahan because I feel like every Niner fan I know, like I think when you ask the general, like just an NFL fan, a non-Niners fan, he's very highly respected. He's a creative coach. He always feels like he's kind of a step ahead. Now he gets criticized a bit when it comes to like the Super Bowl, like the playoffs. But when I ask Niner fans, they're always kind of like I like him, but is he like a little over? I all feel like they think he's a little overrated. Do you feel that same way about Shanahan?
Yeah, I mean we hate Mike McCarthy. We love Kyle Shanahan, and it's like, well, at least Mike McCarthy's won a Super Bowl. Like,
right.
Like McCarthy gets destroyed. It's like, wow.
Shanahan's a tough one. I mean, there's too many trends with this Niners team of blowing games late. It's gonna creep up into them at some, like it just does. Like even the other night, you're like, what are we doing? What was going on here? You're just completely blowing the Cowboys out in the third quarter, and then like in the fourth. What was that? Like it was just, you just don't know. I think to answer your question, Kwab, I don't know if they're the team to beat. I think it's hard to say the Lions aren't the team to beat in the NFC. But this Niners team, honestly, so far, I go back to, I believe it was like 2013 or 2014, the year Michael Crabtree, it's like the Niners were coming off a really good year. Michael Crabtree got hurt at the end of the year. Michael Crabtree missed the first 6 to 8 games. They had a lot of weird losses. I went to a game. They lost to the Colts. They had like 10 points with Kaepernick. Like, it was like things looked really weird for about the first 7 or 8 weeks. Crabtree comes back. He wasn't great, and I think it took him some time to like ramp back up. Same thing with CMC. He hasn't played a football game in like
it's been a
long time. It's going to take him time. But at the end of the day, that 49ers team, I can't remember if they got to the Super Bowl or if that was the team that lost to the Seahawks. They were still in the mix, right? Like the Niners, if there's a team, if there's going to be a team that I think Detroit doesn't necessarily want to see, that's probably going to challenge Detroit, I think it's going to be this Niners team. And I think at the end of the day, when you look at it, like, who's probably in the conference championship, we'll actually know quite a bit because these two teams play each other week 17. And so that, it won't be this like, oh, this is going to be for the conference, but I think that'll be a very telling game of where the Niners are, because I think they'll get in the playoffs. I just don't know if they're the team to beat like that. How is that not Detroit?
Yeah, so right. To answer your question, Kwab, going back, like I was kind of going to say what Aneesh said. I think them getting healthier obviously help, but CMC is going to take them a little time, maybe a few games to kind of really get going. So I wouldn't, if you're a Niner fan or even not, like I wouldn't expect him to, come out, first game having over 100 yards. It may take him 3 games to do that, to really see, the actual CMC we know. You know what I mean? But I will say what Aneesh said has a good point, is that if it's any team that the Lions that can challenge the Lions, it is them. Even though they don't have Ayuk, still having Debo, Kittles,
a lot of weapons,
Purdy, and you still have, a pretty good defense to me. Really good, a good defense.
Yeah, not the same,
but they're a good defense.
Yeah, it's okay.
That's probably a team that can probably challenge the Lions. Outside of them, I don't really see anybody else that I'm like, yeah, they can challenge the Lions.
What about Green Bay? Are we sleeping on Green Bay a little bit?
It's funny, like going into the year, of course, I love that division, just the North.
Oh yeah, that's legit.
Yeah, Green Bay's going to make the playoffs. Are they? Well, obviously, look, this weekend we're going to see they play the Lions. It's a huge game, so this is going to really tell where they're at. I think if you ask me the question after this weekend, I can probably tell you better after this weekend. So right now I'm going to say Detroit, just because how they've looked and how they've been beating teams, and just watching them with just using your eye test. There's really, as far as offensively, they really have no weaknesses. You know what I mean? Because receiver, running backs, the quarterback, they have it all. They have the good tight end.
Very explosive. Yeah.
Yeah, now the defense, they're very a bend don't break. They can be they'll bend, but they don't break. You know what I mean? So if you're gonna use something against them, maybe it's their defense that teams like a Niners team could come in and put up 28, 30 points on them, and they may have to get into a shootout.
They can win shootouts, though.
That's the thing. They're so good in shootouts. They're really good. It's almost like they thrive and they love shootouts. So if you're going to do that, that's right up their alley. Like, okay, you want to go tit for tat? Let's go. So, yeah, like Aneesh said, I think if there's any team that can probably challenge them, maybe the Niners when they're healthy, when CMC is back to the CMC we know. Like you said, they're not going to have Ayuk all year, but they still got Kittle and Debo. And, so I think that's maybe the team that can challenge Detroit. And I guess after Detroit, it may be them that is, even though the NFC is still kind of wide open, I would trust them a little more than maybe like a Green Bay or a Philadelphia.
I was going to say, that's another team. Philly started to play really well as of late, too, especially once they've gotten A.J. Brown back and Devonta Smith back.
You were. I feel like I was, and our guy Eagle's not here. You and Eagle were throwing Jalen Hurts under. What's wrong with Hurts?
Yeah, he wasn't playing well. He wasn't playing well.
I was in the same boat, Aneesh. I thought he regressed a little bit.
Well, I think Jalen Hurts is a perfect example of a guy that kind of needs his weapons. Like he's not a. I don't think he's a dude that can elevate a team when he doesn't have his pieces.
Yeah,
like, it's almost like we talked about with
Who
Purdy.
doesn't need AJ Brown? Of course you need AJ.
Right.
I understand that, but it's such a dramatic drop for me. That's what the problem is. Like, yes, you can look. You're not going to look as good without your All-Pro level receiver. But I don't want to say he took a steep drop. Like
this is why I say I know we're getting a little off topic, but this is why Mahomes is so great because he doesn't.
Oh,
he doesn't have any of that. He doesn't have an AJ Brown or a CeeDee Lamb or a Deebo Samuel.
That was a Magic Johnson level comment.
Great. Yeah, we all know.
Because Aneesh, like you're not on the thing. We sometimes get into it we always say with the Chiefs, like, oh, well, they don't look good, but I'm like, they still got Mahomes. But people say, oh, they still don't look great. I don't know about them. It's like, what do you mean you don't know about them? They still have Mahomes.
But I will say this, though. I think the Chiefs are going to have a game. It's probably going to be in the playoffs. They're going to be, like, down. It's going to happen. Because they've faced adversity in the past. In the years they won a Super Bowl, they were down 24 to the Texans. Like, they're going to be down, and we're really going to have to see them get it going offensively because, like, they just haven't really got it going yet. Like, we're almost halfway through the season. Like, there's no concern from y'all? Like, none?
I mean, it's 7-0. I can't get concerned over an undefeated team. Now, I understand. I know what you're going to bring up, Kwab, is that Steelers team that the one you never trusted. That when Ben,
no, that's not the same because the Chiefs are champs. Like I'm not I'm
right.
That level of respect.
But why were you making those? That's the when I hear you say that, that's what I conjure up. Those are the thoughts I have. Like, it's kind of looking at like how that Steelers team he didn't trust. And I get you're not a Chiefs fan, so you really don't care. But it's like that's why I'm saying the greatness of Mahomes, right? Because he doesn't need all the stuff we're naming with teams that they need this, they need that. The quarterback needs it. He needs none of that. It's him orchestrating everything. Give me a decent receiver. Give me a third-round running back. I'll make it happen. I'll get it done. Now, I will say to your point, Kwab, you've been saying this all year, the Chiefs might have now turned in more from a offensive team to really the defense.
A defensive team.
That's what's really the talk. It's really the defense is what has really propelled them to the 7-0. You're right. Mahomes doesn't look great, but he's still Mahomes.
He's still the best quarterback in the league.
Right. He still gets it done when he needs to.
I was just wondering if you guys had any sort of like, because here's the thing: if the Chiefs lose this weekend, they play Tampa. Who do they play? No, they play Tampa. Who do they play coming up?
Yeah, they got Monday Night Football against Tampa.
Tampa in KC.
Yeah. Hypothetically, let's say they lose to Tampa. It's only going to hypothetically. That's what I said. I'm just trying to make a point. Like, all it's going to do is take one loss by the Chiefs for people to finally start saying, what's going on with Mahomes? The only reason...
Wasn't this last year, Kwab? This was last year.
Thank you.
This was like 8 touchdowns, 9 picks, 8...
No, but Kwab, we were all concerned last year when we kept saying they have no receivers. They have 0 receivers.
They lost to the Raiders at home on Christmas.
Right.
They also lost to the Broncos.
The Raiders?
They lost to the Broncos too, yeah.
They lost to Aiden McConnell when he went like 3 of 10 at the crib.
Yeah, and look, I may be completely off on this, but there isn't a little part like, why are they looking so...
I told you, Kwab, I was done doubting Mahomes when he came back from the Texans 24. I was done. I'm like, I'm never going to criticize this guy again.
No, it's not.
He did that in the playoffs. He didn't do it in some regular season game.
No. It's not doubt on his level of greatness. It's a bit of like concern. Like, well, why are they not like clicking really? Like, what's like they still have one of the most creative offensive play callers in the history of the NFL. They have arguably a top 3 quarterback already. Like, why is it not like this?
But to Aneesh's point, we were saying the same thing last year with them when they had no receivers. We were saying, well, first of all, we kind of knew why they weren't clicking because they had no effing receivers. So you were kind of like, they have no receivers, so that's why they're not clicking.
I'm not sold that that's going to be the case again. Remember, we talked about it with the Bengals earlier. Just because there's a trend doesn't mean that trend is going to keep working and working. We've seen dynasties before. We've seen New England. What the Chiefs are doing is not new. They haven't won 3 in a row yet. We saw the Patriots go to the playoffs. They lost playoff games. It's not a shoo-in that the Chiefs are just going to get back to the Super Bowl. It's not.
It ain't a wrap yet. Like there's
I'm not saying that.
Wrap, but like. Listen, they're going to get in the playoffs. It doesn't matter where. Like, doesn't matter if they're going to go on the road or at home.
It didn't matter last year.
Who the Ravens look.
Right.
It doesn't matter. Like, can someone actually? Like, let's see them in January. Let's see if someone can beat them. Like,
Right.
get all hyped up on like, oh, look how good the Raiders just killed the Bills. Like, let's see the Ravens go play the Chiefs. Wherever, it doesn't matter. You name it. They can go play at a high school field. Let's see if they can beat them. Like,
right. Anisha said they lost to the Raiders last year with Aiden O'Connell going 3 for 10. Well, everybody was up in arms about that. Oh, they can't win the Super Bowl playing like that. They lost to the Broncos when Russell Wilson looked awful. Like, it didn't matter. Right, like Anisha said, at the end of the day, when January came, when it counted, it did not matter. That's. I think your concern should really start when we get to the play or get near to the end of the season. The concern should not be mid-season. Like, nobody cares about the Chiefs especially the first half of the season. Nobody cares. We want to see once we get to January, how are they playing?
This is the Patriots thing. Who cares what they're doing right now? Let them
right.
Okay. We're gonna come back to this episode in the playoffs. Like, remember when I was concerned?
Okay, so like if they lose in the divisional round or lose in the conference championship, let's like, oh yeah, my concerns in January were justified because they didn't get it. It's not easy making the Super Bowl.
Yeah, of course.
Right.
They end up going to somewhere. It's hard to say. It's hard to extract anything on the Chiefs right now. Like, kind of going along, like doing the thing, winning games, being efficient, great defense. Like,
right. They're just kind of going through the motions.
You said it. They look kind of like bored. They're like, we've done this before. We're waiting for the playoffs.
That's what I think. I've been saying this all year. I just think they just kind of like they're trying to get through the season and say, okay, all right, our real goal is January. All right, here we go. We're trying to three-peat. This is what really matters. Who cares if we play, like Aneesh said, the Raiders and the Broncos and Tampa on Monday with no Chris Godwin? Who cares? Like, okay. They're probably going to win that game anyway, and nobody's going to care. The sports media is not going to even talk about it. I'm like, oh, they went 8-0. What else is new? Next topic. Nobody cares.
Kwab, what's your take on the Niners? I don't know if you ever gave your.
Yeah, I do. I do still think they're the team. I just trust what they can do when they're relatively healthy. Like Ayuk, that's kind of a big. But I like Juwan Jennings. I feel like Juwan Jennings is just going to be that spot that was kind of missing with that.
Why did they re-sign Ayuk?
In hindsight, that looks bad, but he was a really good receiver.
Even then, it's just like doesn't Shanahan's the ultimate plug and play guy?
Right.
Yes.
So you're kind of saying they didn't really need him.
Why would you go pay another receiver like hundreds of millions of dollars?
Well, I think for a while they didn't want to. I don't really know why they just didn't
give him to Pittsburgh.
A lot of teams wanted him. Yeah. So, but yeah, I do think because I actually like Purdy. I think you made a great point about. I think the reason where some people are hesitant on Purdy is because he wasn't like a high draft pick. Like if Purdy was playing at this level and he was the 4th overall pick in a draft, it'd be like, yeah, he has some hit or miss games like every quarterback does, but like overall he's done a really good job. He's taken that team to a Super Bowl. He's a quarterback you can trust. Like talking to Niner fans, heck, I'm sure Aneesh, you trust him way more than you ever trusted Jimmy Garoppolo. You know what I mean? So,
is that guy in the XFL?
Like, what's anybody in the XFL? All right, I want to.
One thing about the Niners, real quick, Niners-Lions, at some point this Aiden Hutchinson thing is going to catch up to the Lions.
It has to.
I just said that. I said the one thing that can bring them down is the defense, because the defense is a bend, don't break. You know what I mean? They will bend, they just don't break. But at some point, somebody may break them. The only thing I was saying to that was the Lions. It's like they thrive off shootouts. Like they love when you go tit for tat. And now, can they do that in every game? No. And it may not even work in the play. Because, in the playoffs, everything kind of condenses. Everything gets a little tighter. You may not be able to do that how you do it in the regular season. So that's the one thing I think that could bring them down is that, right, not having Aiden Hutchinson, the defense kind of breaks at some point, and they can't get into a shootout. So,
It tightened them from last year, right? That Tampa game was tight.
Right.
The Rams game was tight.
Right.
I know we mentioned the Packers, too. Isn't there a little brother with Packers Lions? Like, you don't think that's in Detroit's head a little bit? That like in the Packers' head too. Like this weekend, you're like, you don't think the Packers are like, these are our little brothers here? Like,
well, I think that reputation is still more with Packers Bears. I think the Packers,
the Lions. Come on, with the Packers over the years have like brushed aside the Lions.
Well, the Lions have actually been. Remember, they beat them. They were that was Rodgers' final game with the Packers. Like the Lions have been kind of like, yo, you ain't gonna punk us no more.
It'd be interesting.
Yeah, and I don't know how good the Packers are. Like the Packers lead the league in takeaways, but you want to talk about being Brett Favrean? I think Love has a lot of Favre in him, and the good and the bad, because he is not afraid to make any throw. But then sometimes he's throwing to the other team. It's like, yo, bro, you got to throw to a Packer. I think Love is awesome. I'm a big fan, one of the better young quarterbacks in the league, but that could get them in some trouble if he doesn't kind of calm down on the turnovers a little bit. But I do like the Packers. I think they have a shot to be. I don't think we'd be.
Well, they split. I think they split the last 2 years every year, right? Even when the Lions have been that year that they beat the Lions beat them. Rodgers' final year, they went one. It was 1-1.
I actually think the Lions swept them that year because I remember Rodgers having a really bad game in Detroit. Like he threw like 3.
Oh, okay. So they split last year, though. They split last year.
I think so.
Well,
they split last year.
The Packers went in on Thanksgiving and whooped them
right,
up.
Exactly. Remember, Detroit beat them I think in the beginning of the season, and then then they went into Detroit and beat them in Thanksgiving.
I don't think anybody here would be
surprised. A turning point where you're like, ooh, they've got something here, right? Like Love started 10 games, they just went into Detroit, beat them around a little bit, then they went on that hot run, and you're like, okay, like they're kind of like, with the Rodgers, took a little dip, and now they're over the hump, and here they're ready to go, right? And that just feels like, all right, yeah, we took a 10-game break, Rodgers, see you later, here you go. Here's Jordan Love for the next decade.
And I don't think anybody here would be surprised if the Packers were in the title game. I don't think that'd be shocking.
No.
They definitely got
like I said, this week is going to tell me a lot. Yeah. You know what I mean? I know it's in Lambeau, they're at home, but we're really going to see, you know what I mean? Because if they can beat Detroit and, I know they don't even have to beat them, just beat them. But if Detroit goes in there and keeps doing what they've been doing, then I think we have to all be honest with ourselves that, Detroit is just right down another level. You know what I mean?
It's such a cool story that the Lions are good. Who roots against the Lions? Like, they're such a fun team to root for. I want to touch on one more thing. I know we've been on the NFL a little longer than we thought we would be, but one more thing. Obviously, Anthony Richardson got benched for Joe Flacco. And a lot of the conversation. What'd you say?
Send him to the XFL, too.
Oh, God.
Send him to an XFL list.
Man, but a lot of the talk that's been going on over the last couple of days is with the lack of patience a lot of these organizations are just starting to show for quarterbacks. Like, whether it's Mac Jones or some of these guys just didn't really pass the eye test. Your Kenny Pickett's, your Mac Joneses, now Anthony Richardson. A lot of these guys are first-round picks, and teams give them a year or two, and then they're out. I mean, we may see the same thing happen with Bryce Young. So the question I have for you guys real quick, if we can keep this short, that would be great. Like, do you think there's a lack – why is there a lack of patience with these organizations? I don't feel like that's always been the case in the NFL. We've seen teams try to get the right offensive coordinator for these young guys, really wait for them to develop, or heck, even sit them for a while before you play them. But like, are these teams moving off too quickly from these young quarterbacks, Aneesh?
I mean, I think there's a sense of desperation in the NFL. And like, I don't know, when you're desperate, are you the most patient person? No. And so, I mean, I think there's just desperation. I think it's desperation when it comes into like we all know the quarterback position is really necessary right now. We know like no fan has patience, and so you've got to be able to win. And that all starts with the quarterback position. So then you're desperate. You go into the draft and you're just so desperate and you start reaching for quarterbacks. Like left, right, and center. It's like, oh, Kenny Pickett, we really need a quarterback. We're Pittsburgh. Got to find the solution. He plays in our backyard. Let's draft him in the first round. And it just like, that I think then starts the spiral of like, okay, we reach for this guy. He's actually probably not that good when he gets to the next level. Like, would you rather keep holding on, or would you just say like, all right, yeah, like see you later next? And I think, I think there is a lack of patience in developing that I think stems way ahead of just like, like it's fans, it's expectations, it's like trying to be good and causes you to reach for quarterbacks and. Right. You reach for Will Levis, and you're like, this guy's no good after watching him for 6 games. So
right. And real quick, Darian, before I let you go, like what's happening with like Anthony Richardson, for example, these guys aren't even getting a full season's worth of starts. Like Anthony Richardson probably has 9 starts his entire career, and people are like, oh yeah, he's done. Now he didn't help himself by saying he was tired. It's like, oh boy, like don't.
But again, Kwab, where did Anthony Richardson come from? Like. I barely heard of him at Florida. He played a little bit, and then all of a sudden, oh yeah, this guy's a top 5 pick. And you're like,
I think there are 2 quarterbacks that are still in the league right now that are more influential than they get credit for. Russell Wilson, because of his size. Think about it for all these years. Oh, he's 5'10", but like look at Russell Wilson and now Josh Allen. Oh, he's raw, but like look what he's turned into. He has a huge arm, and it's messing up a lot of these scouts that are looking at these guys like, oh, he has a little Josh Allen in him. Like, nah, man, Josh Allen's an anomaly. Like these guys, like you don't see too many Drew Breeses and Russell Wilsons, these shorter guys that can play at a Pro Bowl level.
Like Bryce Young, we're like, oh yeah,
Bryce Young was really good at Alabama. Like Bryce Young was really good at Alabama though. Like I don't think
it's different when they put a 5'9" guy like, and it's just like this guy looks like a child out there.
Or Kyler Murray looks like a kid.
Right.
That's a Drew Brees, right? That's a Drew Brees. The Russell Wilson's like, oh, he can be good because of his size, and it's like, well, can he be?
So I get where both of your takes are going. I have a little different take. I think where you go and who your coach is and organization matters, right?
Right.
I'm not kind of disagreeing with what you guys said. Of course, the quarterback has to have talent and work hard and be able to be plugged in and be willing to work, right? But I think it's a big thing is where you go matters. So look at all the quarterbacks you named and all those teams. There's an issue there as far as the organization, right? Like, okay, let's look at Carolina. Carolina's not really a great organization. No. So Bryce Young was doomed from the start.
To be honest, have a very impatient owner too.
Correct, right. So he was doomed from the start. I'm not saying that now. Look, would C.J. Stroud probably been a little better if he went there? Yeah, but he would still have the same issues because of who the owner is, what the organization he is. So I'm a big believer in where you go and who the organization's matters because, right, if you have an impatient owner, you don't have a great head coach, or you give an offensive guy a defensive-minded coach, well, they're probably not going to thrive how you think they're going to thrive, right? Anthony Richardson's situation, it's a little tricky for me because they have an offensive coach, right? And, a UNLV guy, Shane Steichen, and I'm not big on the owner. You know what I mean? I know he obviously when he had Peyton.
Irsay?
Yeah, when he had Peyton, of course, he had Dungy. He just lucked out and had guys that could overcome him. You know what I mean? He had a player and a coach that could overcome the owners. Like, we don't really need you to be doing anything. We got this.
Yeah.
He doesn't have that anymore. You know what I mean? They don't have that anymore. Like, the owner now is more in control of everything. So I just think, unfortunately, where these guys go, it's not the greatest spot for them. It's not the right fit for them. So, and to Aneesh, I don't know if Anthony Richardson would have went anywhere else. It would have worked out. I don't know. Because I'm just trying to think of teams like, okay, if he would have went there, maybe because he has a better.
Darian, it could pop up, right? Like Baker went to Cleveland, flamed
right.
out. Now everyone's like, whoa, Baker's good.
Right.
Like,
so I think where you go matters. Where you are put matters, right? And where you fit in that system, in the organization, in that structure matters. So, right, Baker's a great example of that.
Darnold was at
Darnold's a great example of that, right? I mean,
this guy's horrible, but like maybe he was pretty good, and he was just with the Jets, and now you put him in the right.
Right.
You give him a pretty good offensive coach, and Justin Jefferson, he's pretty good,
Exactly. So that's what I'm saying. So I just, I'm not going to write off Anthony Richardson like this is the end. I just think it's where he's at. Like, this is not the right organization or right place for him. You put him somewhere else, he may go and thrive. We may be having this conversation a year or two from now. Like, remember that conversation I had with you about being in the right place, right fit? You're seeing it right now. You're seeing it with your own eyes. So I think that matters.
And it does matter, but I think, and you guys are both good on the eye test, right? Like, sometimes you can just see it early with a quarterback. And I think one of the issues with the Colts is they're still kind of shell-shocked off the Luck thing. Like, that's been affecting them for a while. Like, they really still haven't recovered from Luck retiring. Because let's be real, Luck would probably still be their quarterback. Like, he'd still be their guy. So, like, they're still trying to recover from that. But what I think is with Anthony Richardson, like, I'm not sure that this wasn't the right situation. But the problem with him is, like, he just can't complete passes. Like you can't have you can't complete 45% of your passes. Like, that's on Shane Steichen. Like, yo, throw it to Pittman. Like, throw it to him.
Like the dude wide open there with 10 guys not around. Like, just lob him the ball, and it's like
Shane Steichen was a really good OC in Philly, and he's actually shown some good signs in Indy. With when Flacco came in, even with Garner Minshew, they were like in playoff contention to the last game of the season last year.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of think this is an Anthony Richardson thing. Unfortunately, he has a lot of things he has to clean up, and who's going to be patient enough to like? I don't know. I'm trying to think of some of the really like creative play caller, like your Shanahans, your McVays, but those guys have reached the pinnacle of the NFL. Like they've won Super Bowl. Well, Shanahan's been to Super Bowls, but like these guys have been champions. Like they're not trying to work on a project; they're trying to win chips.
Yeah.
Like this is Tim Steichen's the perfect situation. Like it's a new coach, new quarterback. Let's grow together. These your LaFleurs, all these guys are trying to win titles. Like they're not trying to work on a project. So my fear is that he's going to go to another team and he's just going to be sitting on the bench.
Yeah, and that can happen. I'm not saying that can't happen, but I think, again, you have to look at the organization as a whole, who the head coach is. And then with the Colts, I like the head coach. Like I said, I'm not a big fan of the owner. I think the Irsay has lucked up in getting the Mannings and the Lucks, that quarterbacks that can overcome him and not deal with his shenanigans. You know what I mean? Yeah. But when you then now have, okay, we have this brand first-time head coach, you have a new quarterback, raw quarterback. Okay, what can you do? It just may not be the greatest situation. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if you put Anthony Richardson with Shanahan. I'm not saying he's going to do what Purdy does, but I have a funny feeling he may do a little better what he's doing with the Colts. I think Shanahan can figure out a kind of a asset how he can use him. Like, okay, yeah, he's not the best thrower. Well, I'm going to use him kind of like how they use Cam in Carolina, because that's what he can do. That's his strength. Bootleg, QB option, run. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That may be a thing that he would use. So you have to – I also think it's also the responsibility of the coach and the organization to, when they get a guy, know his strengths and how to use him, and not just say, well, he can't throw or he can't do this, he can't do that. Well, find what his strength is and work it into your offense. That's your responsibility. That's what you're supposed to do as a head coach. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And it's okay to let guys sit. Like, why can't guys still sit 2-3 years? And then, like, we're starting to – guys, throw them in right away. Bryce Young wasn't – I don't care if Bryce Young was the number 1 overall pick. He was not ready.
He wasn't ready.
He was not ready to play.
Yeah.
So, good stuff, fellas. Really love that NFL conversation. Real quick, so today is we're recording this podcast on a Wednesday, the 30th. This is right before Game 5 of the World Series. I didn't think the Dodgers would sweep, even when they went up 3-0, because of the pitching situation in Game 4. That was kind of a bullpen game for the Dodgers. But Game 5 is tonight in New York. I just want to get your guys' quick opinion on this, as far as like, how do you think the rest of the series is going to unfold, and what's been like the biggest storyline of this series so far, Darian, the Yankee fan? I'll start with you.
I mean, as far as tonight, I think the Yankees could win tonight, and it goes back to LA. But I think it ends on Friday, regardless. Obviously, the Dodgers don't win tonight.
Mm-hmm.
I think it still ends on Friday. I think it ends in 6. I mean, the biggest storyline. I don't think this is even. This is not a trick question. I mean, it's Freeman. I mean,
well, okay.
No, I think it is. It's Freeman. Yeah, it's Freeman. As far as now, the positive part of it, yeah, it's Freeman. As far as, you know, what he's been. I mean, the guy's homing in every single.
That's insane.
I mean, that's insane. I mean, I've never even
get my bet in on a Freeman home run.
Right, exactly.
If you want to win free money, go put money on Freeman to win MVP. Now you have to put down like $1,000 to win $20.
Right, exactly. But no, he's clearly the biggest story as far as offensively. Now, if you want to talk about on the Yankee side, what's the biggest thing is Judge has probably been the biggest disappointment, because where's he been at? I mean, you know, this is arguably the AL MVP, and you're talking about, you know, what's happened?
Yeah.
What's going on? I've always said this about him as a Yankee fan. He swings at everything. I mean, when you swing at everything, you're going to hit some things. Every dog has his day. You're going to hit a home run once every 30 bats. Of course, you're going to hit it. Now, is it times when you may get hot where, okay, you may have a stretch where you're like, oh, wow, he's hitting one every game. But at some point when you swing at everything, it never really ends well. You know what I mean? You're going to have
everything, but he batted like 320 this year. Like he was hitting.
Oh, I get it. But I've seen this movie before. I've seen the story before. We've seen the Ryan Howard,
the
Sosas, the Maguires, all these big hitters. Yeah, they did the same thing. And again, at the wrong time, they went cold. It's like, they're swinging at everything. This is The
you
swing and everything is not
it's
good.
Like with Dak, you see it coming.
Yeah, you see it coming. You're like, okay, when is this going to happen? Now, I wish this would have happened during the season where he had this stretch where it's like, okay, cool, he's doing it now instead of waiting to the World Series. But yeah, I saw it coming. You know what I mean? And listen, I told you in the beginning of the series I like the Dodgers in 7. I told you why. I told you I thought you had a better bullpen. I thought you had underrating. I actually thought you guys had a better full lineup of hitters than we did. I thought we had better power hitters like the Judge, the Stantons, the Sotos, the Torres. Yeah, they can all hit it out the park. But as a full lineup, you guys have the better lineup. So I'm not really surprised how this series is gone. I am surprised how you guys went up 3-0. I thought it'd be more competitive.
It probably should be 2-2 right now because the Yankees had game 1. They had it.
They did right. So I thought it'd be more competitive where it'd be like, yeah, y'all are going tit for tat, but in the end, you guys would take it. Right. But I think right now, if I had to call it, yeah, I think Yankees should win tonight because you got Garrett Cole pitching, but I think it ends on Friday, regardless.
What do you think, Aneesh?
I think the biggest surprise for me, this Dodgers team was down 2-1 to San Diego. And you were kind of like, oh, here we go again. Here's this high-paid Dodgers payroll and the favorites. And like, oh, man, they're going to go out to their rivals in San Diego again. And, another disappointing year. And since then, there hasn't been a ton of drama, right? Like
they've been pretty smooth. And that's where, they kind of ran through the Mets.
And I think that's been a surprise to me because that's just not been in the Dodgers' MO to make it
they've been doing this kind of chokers.
Yeah, like just do what they're doing, right? Like do what you do. You've gone out and paid Freeman and Betts and Ohtani and all these people, and like if you asked how many championships should they have won, you would have 2, 3, 4, 5, not 6, not 7, not 8. So I think for me, especially after they were down 2-1 to San Diego, I'm like, this has been pretty uneventful in the sense of like the Dodgers are kind of like flexing and taking care.
They were scoring a lot of runs too. Yeah.
Like offense hasn't gone cold, scoring runs, pitching surprisingly with all the injuries has still been pretty good. Bullpen's been great. You're like, oh, okay, like this is what you would expect, but like baseball doesn't really what you expect doesn't really happen. There's always drama and upsets and parity, and it's like you're like, oh, okay, the Dodgers are just kind of and they're flexing against an equal team that like didn't really have a lot of drama in the first 2 rounds.
No,
so you would think
less drama than Dodgers.
It'd be a little more even, but like I think that's to me the biggest surprise is just kind of just been okay. The Dodgers are
how do you think the series ends?
Dodgers winning. Yeah,
I think we're all in agreement on that. Yeah.
No, in 5. No,
there's no way. This is not going to be a Boston 2004 situation where they come back like the Red Sox did to them. That's not happening. It's just not. The Dodgers are too good for that to happen. I just don't see that.
Those Yankees were good too.
Remember, that was a difference. They were down 3-1 though. Remember, they weren't down 3-0. That was a difference.
They were down 3-0.
I thought it was 3-1.
I thought that was a 3-0 deficit. Like that's Aneesh, correct me if I'm wrong.
That was 3-0.
Oh, 3-0? Okay.
I think it's the only time it's ever happened, right?
Right. But I don't see it happening this time. Nah.
Now I think the biggest
that's a really funny thing, by the way. Like, and you guys know this from the NBA, right? Like in the 7-game series. Yankees win 1 tonight, and there's a little bit of like
I'm nervous. I'm nervous, man.
Are you though? I mean, you got 2 in LA. Like they need 2, and then y'all need to win 1.
Well, here's the thing.
I don't know.
Game 6 is essentially. I don't care what anybody says. If the Yankees win tonight, which they might, they're favored to win.
Mm-hmm.
Game 6 is essentially an elimination game for the Dodgers. They can't go 7 because all the Yankees have all the momentum. All the
pressure, and it's the NBA thing where like, okay, cool, like series are going one way, but there are games that can change the pressure point for the next game, and things get.
At least you think that tonight is that game. If they win tonight, then it's like, we may have to start.
If you're a Dodger player fan, you want it to end tonight.
I don't want them to go to LA.
You don't want to come back. I know it's like, oh, okay. In theory, it sounds great. Just win 1 of 3. You should be able to do that. Like. What are the percentage chances? Not very low, but like if you go game to game, and this is the one that when the Warriors and the Cavs, right? Like once it got to a game 7 and it was like all the pressure was on Golden State.
Oh man,
Cleveland, nothing, and you get to these pressure points where you're like, oh okay, like, let's just not. If you're a Dodger fan, I just don't think you want to mess.
Yeah, not like Game 6. I'll be like, oh crap, I'm nervous, but I still like us. Game 7, Yankees winning.
That's all you gotta do as a Yankee fan, right? Take care of business tonight. Put the pressure back on the Dodgers because now they have no pressure. Put it all back on them, and pressure's a funny thing. Like things change with pressure, and that's like the big thing with these series is change it with pressure. And I don't know, all the pressure is on there's no pressure on the Yankees tonight, none, right?
Well, I disagree with that.
I disagree with that. I think it's pressure on them because they got to stay alive. Whereas I agree with you, Aneesh. If it goes back to LA, yes, as a Dodger fan, you're kind of sweating a little bit. Like,
and the Yankees are going to be underdogs in both of those games in LA. Like they're still. And to me, well, one, the biggest story to me is just how cold the bats have gotten from the home run hitters. I mean, people can get on Judge all they want. Ohtani has been just as cold as dude. Nobody's talking about that. Now I understand he's a little banged up, but even before that injury, he's 2 for 15. Aaron Judge is 2 for 15. They're both batting 113. Like they're both been. And Ohtani is we talk GOAT level with him. He's been really cold too. So I think the story of tonight is, can Ohtani get going? Now, of course, Ohtani is the leadoff hitter. He's going to have to go yard tonight. I need to see a little bit more from him. So I think the biggest story is, as amazing as Freeman has been, is the biggest story is just how cold the bats have been with these two guys that hit pretty much a combined 100 and something home runs. I'm nervous. I don't know, man. I don't have a good feeling. I don't know what it is. I just feel like the Yankees might shock some people.
Like I said, they'll win tonight. I think the Yankees win tonight. You're going to end it on Friday. I'm not. This is not a Red Sox kind of thing happening. I don't know why people keep saying that. I understand what Aneesh is saying, that pressure it could change things a little bit, but if you give me, okay, I need to win 1, they still got to win 2, I still like my chances. I still do.
Yeah,
I'm nervous.
Darian, I like those chances.
Right, yeah. Who's not taking those chances?
Maybe as a Dodger fan,
you'd rather be up 3-1 than not be up 3-1. Yeah.
Right, and you know what? The Dodgers did their job in the first 2 games. They won their first 2 home games. They got one in New York. So like, even if they go back to LA, I mean, damn, you have 2 home games. Like, they're still going to be in a good spot even if they lose. But I'd rather just win it tonight. Just win the night and be good. Darian, can you do us a favor and put your Halloween mask back on before we wrap things up? Before we wrap things up, I want to do a little.
Hold on. I'm sorry.
I want to do a little Halloween. Shout out to Halloween. It's tomorrow.
That's right, tomorrow.
We're recording this on a Wednesday. I want you guys to give me your personal top 5 candies. All right. Okay. Now, it doesn't have to be what you think are the GOAT candies, like the first ballot Hall of Famers. I want you guys to give me your personal favorite top 5 candies, starting from 5, ending with 1. I'll let our guest Aneesh go first.
No, let Darian go. I forgot to prepare this one. I'm gonna quickly come up with
all right, Darian, Batman, go first.
Okay, so you said from 5 to 1.
5
right?
to 1.
Okay.
It's Halloween candies.
Whew. Okay, so this is because I have like 3 or 4. I don't really have a 5. But if I had to go 5, I would probably say 5 would probably be Nestle Crunch.
Okay. Straightforward. Hit the spot. It's a safe candy bar. It's safe.
That's a perfect. Yeah, safe candy bar. So I would go 5 Nestle Crunch. I would probably go 4 Twix. 3 would probably be Kit Kat.
Oh, that's a great candy bar.
Yeah. 2 would be Reese's.
Oh yeah.
And then number 1 for me, as you know, Kwab, you've been my friend, is Butterfinger.
I'm actually shocked that's number 1.
That's number
Snickers?
1.
No Snickers on the list?
Oh, I forgot about Snickers. Oh, that's what I'm saying. This is so hard. So you know what? All right.
Snickers is like the LeBron.
Can I take something out?
It's just the GOAT. That's the LeBron.
Can I take something out? So I probably would put Snickers. So I would lower. I would probably. Ooh, oh man, those are both good. I don't know. Snickers might still be 5, man, because I still like Twix and Kit Kat and
Butterfinger.
You know, Butterfinger, and what was this? Reese. I still like those a little bit better.
Okay. So
probably Snickers at 5. So I take out Nestle Crunch. I'll put in Snickers at 5.
But Butterfinger doesn't taste like how it used to taste as a kid. Like I had it like a while ago. I went to the movies. Remember they used to sell Butterfinger BBs? You remember? But he's probably too young. He don't remember. They used to.
Who goes to movies?
But anyway, yeah, Butterfinger like don't taste the same, but it used to hit. I used to miss when it would get stuck.
Well, maybe I ain't gonna lie to you, Kwab. I had one the other night, and then I was a little high. I had the gummy, but it smacked. I don't know about you. It still smacked.
You were high. A lot of things smack when you're high.
That's true. That's what I said. It could have smacked because I was high, but it's definitely
it's a solid candy. Okay, but that's your list. I can't diss your list.
Right.
I mean, you can diss your list, but that's a solid list. Right. Am I going next, Aneesh, or you want to go?
I'll go. I can go. But like sometimes your list can suck. Like
that list wasn't bad though. It wasn't bad. Yeah, it wasn't bad.
Darian, you had like MJ number 1 over LeBron for a lot.
Well, I still do. So yeah.
I went off of when you went trick or treating as a little kid, and you would get things in your goodie bag, and you would like immediately go up to someone's door, and if they gave you that, you'd be like, yes. Okay.
Aneesh is probably a dots guy. Like, are you looking like dots?
No, but like sometimes you'd like someone would give you a bag of candy corn, and you'd be so pissed at that.
Oh, those sweet tarts! I hated those. Those sweet tarts.
Yeah. That's how I went off.
Yeah, those are right.
No, sweet tart. I feel like that was like a throwaway candy. Like, yeah, we just give them that.
Smarties is the throwaway candy. You ever Smarties? Oh, Smarties! It's just like chalk.
A bunch of Smarties. I would walk back like
Smarties are garbage. Get them out of here.
All right. Those mini bags of M&Ms. I love getting at number 5. I love getting a bunch of mini bags of M&Ms.
Plain? Plain M&Ms?
Yeah, because I love shoving all of them in my mouth at one time. That was like my thing when I was younger. Okay, that was number 5. I loved mini Twixes.
I like how he has a list. He's like looking down.
With Twix, I'm like, Twix definitely got to be the top 5.
And he says this written down.
Yeah. Number 3, I just love Kit Kats. Give me the little Kit Kats, break them up, like perfect. Number 2, I loved mini Good Bars.
Oh yeah,
like
Good Bars.
I love the like. I throw like Good Bar and Crackles in there. It's like you can just like.
Crackles like Crunch though, right? Pretty much the same thing.
Yeah. It's like Nestle Crunch, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But like, you know how everyone would go buy that variety bag of like Hershey's, Good Bars, Crackles, and like throw them a bunch. I was like, I love picking out all the Good Bars, and like just like regular Hershey's chocolate could like be pushed aside. Number 1, anybody who gave out the king size Snickers were the GOAT.
I never got a king size. I always get the mini one.
I always got the mini ones.
There were some people who would give out the king size Snickers, and they were the GOAT of giving out.
What neighborhood was that?
Right. I was saying, I definitely wasn't in that neighborhood.
I was in the DMV, baby. I was in the DMV.
Right.
All right, that's a solid list. I have no strong feelings one way or the other. Like that's a good list. Snickers number 1, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, king size too, man.
Let's get to the nitty gritty here, man.
I'm gonna buy you a king size Snickers.
All right, so I have an honorable mention, kind of like Darian had. He took out when you took something out and then you put
Nestle Crunch out. Yeah,
I have an honorable mention, and I'm tired of this candy bar getting so much hate, man. And like it's in every. Aneesh already has his head down. Milky Way is good. I don't care why people.
It's like the candy. It's been the candy forever. Like it's like
simple. It's chocolate, nougat, caramel.
It doesn't do anything.
What is nougat?
I don't know what nougat is, but it's good. Nougat is in Snickers, right? Nougat is good. I'm good with it.
Like it's in Snickers, but it's not like we are the nougat candy.
Right, exactly.
All right, but anyway.
Caramel.
Wait. This is my list. All right, so that's my list.
We're not even on the list. We're an honorable mention.
Honorable mention. All right, I'm gonna start a little controversial because I'm tired of another candy bar. People hate.
This is 5.
Number 5.
Yeah.
Almond Joy. People hate on Almond Joy. No, listen. Because if you're
your list is already disqualified, bro. Almond
Joy. Are you gonna disqualify my list? It's mine. Anyway, all right, I got Almond Joy number 5. Okay.
Aren't there 2 Almond Joys in there?
Mounds. I'm not dark chocolate guy. Mounds is it's the same thing, but it's with dark chocolate. I'm a milk chocolate guy. So I got. Well, and also I like coconut. If you don't like coconut, I get it. Like you have to like coconut.
Yeah, so maybe that's what it is too. I don't like coconut.
It's just delicious. Try one. So all right, I got that at number 5. All right. Number 4, I got Reese's, but I like there's a subtle difference between the Reese's and the original like orange pack with the 2 cups. I like the little gold ones. They hit a little different. I don't know if you guys have noticed that the little gold foil ones. You know what I'm talking about? Those usually.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I mean, I don't know. Like to me, all Reese's just hit. To me,
that's
because I'm a peanut butter guy, so I love peanut butter.
Yeah,
they all hit. They all hit. To be honest.
So that's my number 4.
Okay.
My number 3, peanut M&Ms. I mean, that's another classic. I feel like everybody if you're not allergic to peanuts, Darren, I know you're allergic to peanuts.
Yeah, that's why. That's why I really never rocked M&Ms because I was always scared to, you know. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Peanut butter M&Ms are better than
yes. Those are. I guess.
When I was trick or treating, peanut butter M&Ms, I don't think they really came out.
So. Oh, yeah,
right. Those smack.
Do you like peanut though? You like peanut M&Ms?
Fine.
Just fine. Wow.
There's just not peanut butter M&Ms.
Number 2, I have Snickers number 2. I mean, Snickers is arguably number 1, but there's one that reigns supreme to me. Ain't nothing hit like a Twix, man. And I think Twix was on your list too, Anish.
Yeah, it was on all our lists. Yeah.
Twix is one of
I like the mini Twixes. There's something about the regular size Twix that they don't hit as good.
Well, that's how I feel about the Reese's cups. Like I feel like the little gold ones be hitting differently. But Twix, that's one of the few candies I can get a king size, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'll kill that whole thing in one sitting. So I do want to mention before we wrap up, like there's a couple candy bars like. Why do they still exist? Like, there should be no candy bars with raisins in it. Like, why? Like, why?
Which ones are those?
It's called there's Raisinets. One.
Ugh.
Like that's still at the movies. You go to the movies, there's still Raisinets. No junior mints. No, nothing. The mint and chocolate combination is awful. I don't know why people like it. Get them out of here.
Oh, why is candy corn a thing?
It's awful. It's awful.
Why is it around? Like, why did it ever exist?
It's like wax. It's like candle wax. It's awful.
Yeah, like why?
I ain't gonna lie. I did like it when I was a kid, though.
That's why Darian was quiet. He wasn't saying anything.
No, I did. I liked it as a kid. I did. But it's like, to me, candy corn's kind of like those pet marshmallow things.
Those are awful.
Yeah, I used to like those when I was a kid, but it kind of went hand in hand.
Get on me for Almond Joy if you like Peps. Those are not good.
Well, first of all, okay, but Almond Joy, like, well, okay. Remember, I'm also allergic to nuts, but and I don't like coconut. But like, do you guys have a problem with marshmallows? Do you guys like marshmallows?
Yeah, I can rock with marshmallows. Not in a candy bar.
So all it is it's just coloring on a marshmallow. That's all it is, really.
Not really like in a candy bar though. Like I like it like s'mores, but not in a candy.
Oh, okay, right. Oh, you can't just eat a marshmallow like by itself. Like you can't just open a package.
No. People do that?
I used to when I was a kid. Yeah, I did.
Why are you still here with us? You're still around? This is crazy. Why are you still alive? That's wild.
I know. I might only have like a couple more years, from backtracking. You know what I mean? So
yeah, but now I had to come through and speak for the Almond Joy lovers out there because I feel like there's just a lot of haters.
Bob, how long have I known you? Nobody hates on irrelevancy. Why would you hate on something that's irrelevant? That is like the.
No, I would say, Kwab. I will tell you, my wife, she does like Almond Joy. That's one of her favorites.
Yeah, you married a good woman, bro.
Nobody hates on them. They're just not good. It's fine.
Right. That's how I think. But she loves them. So
Yeah, man. Classic candy bar. But Aneesh, man, we really appreciate you coming on. This is fun.
Yeah, it's been awesome, man.
We always try to, you got to learn. Every time you try to have me on for 45 minutes or something, it always ends up being like an hour and 45 minutes.
That's fine. This is going to be a big, people are going to be tuned into this one.
Always a pleasure, guys. I love what you guys are doing and what you guys have built. And it's really exciting to see you guys get some great guests on. And then you let people like me on, which is always take you back to your roots and never forget what you came from.
Yeah, we
yeah, no doubt. Yeah. One thing me and Kwab always said that, no matter how big this show got, obviously we wanted to get big to where it's national and all that. We would always never forget the people that kind of always supported us and came on with us when we were at certain levels, when we were starting out. Mm-hmm. So when we're at some, big company, we still going to reach out to you. Ain't going to be like, oh, yeah,
we think.
Yeah, you got to give the people what they want. That's for FaceTime.
I don't know if we haven't guessed like Obama and LeBron, like, oh yeah, we got to get Aneesh on. Like, I don't know if he's gonna make the cut. It's like you had to get rid of your number 5 candy bar. Like, yeah, he didn't make the cut.
Yeah, he's on the bench. Like he's in the.
Yeah, but I see people when I look at certain, you see it on podcasts. They'll have people that
we always
right, you don't really know, but they're still on there and they still have big guests.
We're always gonna have okay ones, man.
Yeah, exactly. That's how I look at it.
Don't send me to the XFL.
We'll try not to do that. But
guys, man, love what you're doing. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man. We'll do it again next week. And go Dodgers.
Go Yankees. Peace.